Hey guys, back within the Echoing Thoughts podcast here, episode number 98. And this podcast, we're going to really get more into hard Archon in general. Congrats to all those teams that have cleared, whether it's normal or hard mode. Um, it's just nice to see a lot of people getting to try out the new boss, no matter what their um, kind of gear level is like. And we went through our second round of clears with a less stacked team. But shout out to all the people that in my team that ran and we were able to clear. Um, Learned a lot. I think appreciate all those people that have posted their videos, shared and stuff like that. Insights. I get a lot of people DMing me, messaging me, posting in Discord kind of questions and tips. So appreciate all of it. Right. I think it's still for me. It's still a big learning experience. It's still only the first week, right? When Asia starts clearing more and posting their videos, and more people get their clears, it's going to be awesome to see. There's a wide range of um, kind of results depending on team comps, depending on gear, all these things, which is nice to see. I'll talk about all the pros and cons, what I think makes hard Archon great, things that I enjoy about it, and what makes it challenging. So I want to dive really deep into that and new strategies as well. And then we'll talk about bonus potentials because I have some takes on that, especially about HP percent, right, and kind of the right the right gear to go HP percent, and what my sort of strategy is with that and take, because I think a lot of people have different opinions on HP, and I think there's some things that people have to be mindful of when it comes to end game bossing and HP and how certain attacks from bosses um, are HP scaling, right? So it doesn't even matter if you have 500, you have a million HP. Like if it's 50% scaling, it's going to hit you for 50% no matter what, right? So no matter what your raw HP is. So just some things in mind, some things to think about, and then, but I first want to briefly talk about the Discord because in Discord I want to start getting more surveys. I want to start doing more kind of ranking videos and content, whether it's in stream or just through video form. But it all starts with Discord. So if you guys want to be a part of that discussion and the surveys and kind of give your input, I want to soon, whether it's next week or the week following, do a uh, mobbing training rankings. I don't think anyone's posted that, and I don't think there's a lot of information still on what are the best mobbers. And I'm gonna need you guys' help because I don't know a lot of classes um, how their mobbing is at the highest level, at the free to play level, whatever it is, just overall. I kind of have a good sense that what I've seen is still like there's the top tier mages are very good, bowmasters are very good, but I still don't know about like some archers like marksmen, pirates. I have a good gauge of warriors. Thieves are kind of hit or miss maybe, but I would love to get your guys' input, and that's join the Discord for that, and so that we can get this right. Right? It's not about me knowing everything. It's about just getting it right, so that when it gets posted and people ask questions, they know that you know the answers are right there. Which classes are the best mobbers, um, based on the community, based on having everyone's the most knowledge possible, not just me, right? So join the Discord, be in the conversation. I'd love to hear it, and learn about it, learn about new classes, and yeah. Now we'll get into the podcast. All right, so for Hard Archon, I really just want to go through this last run and talk about a lot of things that I've learned from this team to sort of better improve, to help you guys get your clears, right? This is about half of the team's first run clear, right? So first off, team comp here isn't for hard Archon isn't as important as it used to be for other bosses, right? Like this run, we don't have a Paladin. We have one Phantom with single res. We have a Buccaneer with Time Leap, and we have a Shade and a Bishop and a Sia. So right off the bat, it's not the it has a lot of support, but it's still um, low on reses, right? And this team actually we survived with 10 lives. We ended up with 10 lives. I think I died the most actually. So the team did a great job, and it's very possible. The main thing is that it's very possible to um, clear this boss with a high lives count, and that really predicates on kind of two things, right? It's one, having a strong aggro that can keep the boss pinned or facing one direction, or a strong 1 or 2 aggroes that know how to survive on their own, right? It gets very sweaty when the boss keeps jumping around back and forth to all different people, just like any other boss, like a Damien, like in Will, when the boss starts turning the other ways or starts dashing in the wrong direction, it just makes it's not very clean in that situation. So step one, team comp doesn't really matter, but having a strong aggro does. I think this boss and a strong aggro can really, really carry like no other run, no other boss, in my opinion. I think you can see someone do 30% of the damage, 30 plus percent of damage very easily because the way the boss is set up, and um, they're basically just standing there and tunneling, kind of like Damien, right? Where the boss they just stay in that corner and just tunnel. So having strong aggro combination of team comp not really mattering, makes Heart Archon pretty fun, pretty interesting, very unique, right? And then it also has this unique gauge that is similar to Gloom, where it automatically goes off when it's filled, right? So what I like about this boss, it has some little bits and pieces of previous bosses. It reminds me of Damien, like I mentioned. I'll talk about more of that later. It has a little bit of Will and Gloom because of this gauge, right? And using this wisely and trying to fill it up and charge it up. And it does different things in each phase. But here you can see kind of in phase one. Phase one is pretty straightforward. I've talked about it a little bit in our last run. You can hear in comms, but we pretty much have our top DPS over here. Look, he did 25%. And we actually had Warren and Primo and Witching Hour and Standalone actually doing DPS in that corner. So he could have done even more damage if these people actually didn't attack. So it's very possible to the strong aggro to do 30 after phase one, probably 30-40% of the damage. Now phase two right here, this is where everyone picks up their DPS. This is just a straight tunnel. Make sure you have Fountain Down healing. Make sure you have kind of HP reducing skills, Benediction, Shell, Sia skills, Party. That just helps with survivability here. No one theoretically should die here. If you're keeping Fountain up and you're kind of like just rotating through Shell here and doing things like that. If you have a Bishop, they can kind of handle everything themselves. But everyone's just tunneling. You see I'm not even moving from this corner, tanking everything, right? My HP goes down a little bit, so just be aware of, using iframes and things like that accordingly. But this is just straight DPS rotation at its finest. Fog Training, Guild Dungeon, and everyone's DPS picks up here, right? And then now phase two, very simple. Just wait till it gets to this point. And we're going to get to phase three. So when it comes to phase three, so you can kind of see right away Archon 3 phases. Each phase is a little bit different, right? Phase one is kind of majority of the team just stands in the corner, waits to get to phase two, because if you've ever seen it, it gets very chaotic on the left side. A lot of pools on the ground. The boss dashes back and forth, and the risk of doing damage there doesn't outweigh the reward, because like I said, in phase two you're just tunneling, so you can make up all your DPS in phase two here, right? So even though you may be on the under geared side, phase one isn't going to make or break it, but you actually can kind of lose it in phase one if you take too many deaths and you're trying to do too much. So I would really recommend phase one. If you feel like you're close and you're having a hard time passing, it's usually not because of phase one. It's usually not because you're not doing enough in DPS in phase one. It's probably phase two. Maybe you're not doing your DPS, but mainly phase three. Phase three is the most important, right? People get to phase three usually around this mark. So they got about 60% damage to do in about 3.5-4 minutes. This team is obviously very strong. So we got here, but I would say for most teams that are clearing close to 10 minutes, this is sort of where you're at as far as end of phase two. No matter how much damage you do in phase one and phase one, usually this is about where you get to, maybe about here, right? Is the checkpoint DPS wise. But phase three, make or break. So I'll show you what we did, and I think there's one better strategy that maybe we're going to implement with our team 2 on Monday to actually see if this is actually better, and saves us about 30 seconds of time. So right here, and what I recommended and what I saw KMSM do was exactly this. They stood aggro, pushed the boss to the left, right? Just kind of got it into position, and everyone else just started to fill their gauge by standing on this statue. And it usually timed out perfectly, where a screen crack that comes in about in a few seconds here. Here it is, the banner, screen crack. Usually the gauge is about 80%, maybe 75% at this time. So my gauge is actually filled. So I kind of waste my shield here. See, it popped off and it didn't hit the boss, so that was wasted, right? But you can see here, we're all repositioning the boss to the left. All our gauges should be filled and the shields are going off, breaking the shield. So the strategy here was to stun, just to keep the boss in place. Make sure we break the shield. So it's stunned right here. Just so that we can break it. The shield, there it's broken, and it's still stunned. A little bit more time to DPS here. And then it goes into the groggy state. Banner shows up and he's actually in this kind of seated position. Okay? So this is a little misleading. This is the split icon that has a shield up, but he doesn't actually have the shield up. As you can see, it went back to the groggy state. So here's the shield again, right? And so we're in a pretty good spot here. Shields are breaking getting broken, and I die here. To be fair, if anyone saw on stream, my iframe right here actually goes off. Goes on cooldown and then doesn't. So unfortunate, but that is not what you want to do. You don't want to do that. Purple pools again, and all the shields are breaking it, broke it, and back into the groggy state, right? So if you time it correctly, you get enough uptime on the boss and you're using your shields properly, you're actually not going to get a screen crack come up, because he actually can do a screen crack every 30 seconds ish. So be aware of that. And here's where the similarity to Damien comes in. So this here is me stepping off and not attacking, so I don't fill my gauge, right? So filling the gauge is, you can do that by standing on the white statue, attacking, or obviously doing both. Okay? So I actually step off, wait for his shield to come back up, and then come back in and attack. Right? So I only missed about, let's see, 443, 442, 440, 6 seconds of uptime. Minor, right? That's less than like what it would take to move the orb left in Damien, right? Or go on the altar even in Damien, right? So this is what I'm talking about, like kind of sacrificing, and how it relates to, it feels a lot like similar to that. If you think of it that way, the small loss that you're going to have in DPS actually is going to help when it actually can get that shield off, break the shield, and get into that groggy state faster, right? And especially for like the lower DPS here, similar to Damien, where everyone has to play a role, right? Altar people, 5 people, usually the bottom DPS, have to play that role, sacrifice DPS in order to do that mechanic, or else everyone's DPS suffers. The fight becomes longer, more people die, and you fail, right? Same thing for this, right? If you're just popping the shields into, you're filling your gauge and not breaking the shield, it's just wasted, right? And it takes about 20 seconds to fill it up. So it takes a while, 20 plus seconds, if everything were lined up perfectly. So groggy state again here. People are breaking the shields, which is, if they're the top DPS, it's fine. You only need 6 people to break their shields. So not everyone has to step off. Top DPS have their role of doing DPS, and I step off here, just in time. Wait for the shield to come off. There it is. Jump back on and immediately break the shield, right? And this adds up, and this just helps make everything go a little bit smoother. I tried to stun right here. I did stun it, but unfortunately he got the pull off just at the same time. So that would have been, but that again would have been a perfect strategy to like, right as the stun duration comes off, if I stunned right here, it would have worked. It would have been perfect. And we could have avoided this pool. I think I could have avoided this death. Multiple could have avoided death. We could have chained it nicely. Stun into shield breaking, and then just even more uptime, right? That could have saved us, who knows, maybe 10, 15 seconds, whatever. It adds up. Makes, minimizes deaths. DPS could have been a little bit better. So that is just something that, little things like that. Like I should have stepped off here, but I tried to burst into it, and look, I got greedy, and I got caught for it, right? I tried to burst into it here, shield came back up, I did no DPS. What I should have done was step off right here, wait, it would only been a few seconds. But I got greedy, bursted, and I got punished. Look, 7 seconds later, popped my shield, bursted right into the shield, and dude, absolutely no damage. And this is why I came in last place. Because I misplaced like that. Just being a little greedy. So hopefully you guys learn from this, especially like, again, 9th, 10th place, me, in this run. Do your role. That 5 seconds of extra DPS has no impact to the actual boss, right? I'm doing no damage in comparison. I'm literally just leeching. So the least I can do is make sure my shield goes off and helps everyone else do more damage. So again, still learning, but this is what I would tell people for the greater good, right? Just treat it like Damien. Yes, it's a 7-minute run, but it's still creating good habits, right? It's still creating good, mechanics and consistency week to week, right? And that's what we can control. And that's what you can control week to week. So that's just my take. That's kind of how I try to approach it, and got the clear, right? 7 minutes, easy peasy. Finished in last. Kind of deserved it because tried to get greedy at the end, bursted into no damage. So that's sort of my hard Archon breakdown of this past run, taking on a new role, right? If you see my Paladin run, I was the aggro. Top 2 DPS. Completely different playstyle, completely different role, but there's only 1 or 2 of those, right? If you want to make a team, you're probably going to, and you're not as geared as I am, 40, 50, 60 mil cap, you may have to be that person, right? That steps off, knows your role, make sure your shields goes off, you're breaking the shield every time this gauge fills, and let the top DPS do the top DPS things, right? So that is kind of something that I learned playing this on the Demon Slayer, which I enjoy because I learned way more playing this role than I do with our main team when we're just kind of brute forcing through it, and we can kind of make a lot of mistakes and still clear comfortably. All right, so now I want to talk about how Hard Archon relates ranks in comparison to difficulty, in comparison to other bosses, right? So especially when it first comes out, right? So that is usually when you have a good gauge on if you have enough DPS, if you have enough HP, if you have the right team comp, and how challenging the boss is, right? And based off of how many teams have cleared Hard Archon, based on the differences in gear, I would say difficulty-wise, HP, like how much HP Archon does, how much DPS you need, I would say it's sort of on that lucid level of DPS requirements, right? There's a lot of uptime. There's not much mechanics. There's not a lot of, the boss doesn't moves, but it doesn't move a lot if you do things properly. Sort of lucid and gloom tier. Now, what makes it challenging is it sort of has a little bit of Lotus in it. It has a little bit of Damien in it, where how the team does mechanically impacts DPS overall, right? So even though it has a certain amount of HP, it's not just brute forcing it. There's a little bit of things you got to do. Damien, you got to move the orbs. Damien, you got to do the altars. Damien, you got to, aggro's got to position in a certain spot. to maximize DPS. Can't let it dash back and forth. You got to pin it in the right corner. Where Archon is the same way. There's a few things, right, with the shield in phase 3, bursting in phase 2, that has a little bit of that Damien vibe. I don't think surprisingly, it wasn't as challenging as Damien. Like, I remember for Damien, and still to this day, how challenging it is for people to move the orbs to the left side. Like, people just have tunnel vision. People just don't pay attention. Like, it's hard to look at the skill, the DPS chart and maintain your DPS for a lot of people. So they're just slow to react that the orb is on them. It happens to me too, right? I'm just as guilty of that. But for some reason, this is a lot more straightforward. It's just when it's in its groggy state and its stun state, you can DPS. When the shield comes back up, all you have to do is prepare for those pools on the ground. Pools on the ground and dodge it, fill your gauge back up, rinse and repeat. So there's just a little bit less, like, you can stare at your character, which is what I think a lot of people just do, and you can see it. There's pools on the ground, move, right? You don't have to look at who is orb duty. You have to look where the altar is on the ground. It's just straight there. Your character, just you, character, the boss is going to be in that left corner or whatever corner you guys pin it. And so it's not Damien level, right? It's kind of a step below as far as mechanics wise. I think what makes it, so I would rank difficulty wise, just current state, right? How it is. Will is still the hardest in my opinion. Now, to get that first clear specifically, Will was the hardest, and still seems to be the hardest, because I know people that have cleared Gloom, have cleared Hard Archon, still haven't cleared Will, right? Because I think there's just a level of fatigue in that 15-minute runs that you just can't compare to anything else. It is a huge factor. I remember when we failed Will last week multiple times, phase 3 even. It just wears on you. It's fatiguing. It's tough. It's tough to just go back into it and continue to do the test and kind of go through the mindless motion, because Will is pretty mindless DPS wise. The tests are very mindless, so like it's hard to stay locked in for a 15-minute fight. So I think that's what makes it very challenging. And there's obviously a geared DPS kind of requirement as well, right? And the tests are no easy thing. So I saw Will number 1. I think Gloom is number 2 currently in the meta. Because for Will and Archon, Hard Archon, aggros can actually kind of hard carry, right? Like you've seen in my Will run with my Pally, I can do a good chunk of the damage and sort of will the team. A few DPS can actually carry the team and make everyone else's job easier, right? Same for Archon, right? Like I said, if you pin the boss, you have someone that knows what they're doing with the pools and can DPS through phase 1 and phase 2 and things like that, and keep the boss pinned in phase 3. It makes everyone's life so much easier. In Gloom, it doesn't matter how much damage that aggro is going to do, right? It does not matter. They could do 30, 40%. And if everyone else is dying in Petrify Room, if everyone else is, struggling to just dodge orbs, dodge stuff on the ground, dying to tentacles, things like that, getting stunned, disoriented, all the things that goes on in Gloom, that DPS cannot carry. It's just how it is, right? Because like when people die in the Petrify Room, they're going to make it come back faster, or like they're gonna timing gets, if multiple people keep dying over time, the Petrify Room, darkness rooms come at the worst possible times, right? It comes during the laser, when it sucks you into the middle. It comes when the eyes open. It comes when you're trying to fly up to avoid the tentacles on the ground, and it just comes at the worst times, right? And towards the end of the fight, it just gets worse and worse as people start to die and throw off the timing. So, and there's no way to party buff that. There's no way to sort of, I guess, out mechanic it. It's really just individual skill. Right? It's really just individual being able to dodge, being able to survive the Petrify Rooms, not dying there, using their iframes, using your toolkit, whatever is stuns, to survive, right? It's like Lotus lasers in phase one. You can't really help anyone there as much as you think, right? If you can't handle the lasers, you can't handle the lasers, right? And it's going to show. It's going to be very apparent and obvious, and it actually affects the team, right? So, and some classes have a harder time just inherently in Lotus lasers, similarly to Gloom, just because of their toolkits, right? So I would have Will Gloom, and then I'll put Archon there, right? I think Archon is easier than Lotus, obviously. Lotus is the easiest boss. Um, Damien, like I have a real soft spot for Damien because we still have such a hard time, but an aggro can carry that. An aggro can carry that. Obviously now with the gear too, it's very outdated boss. Um, like if you can't clear Damien, you're not gonna be able to kill Archon gear wise. Um, so Archon is third for me because it's sort of in that middle of everything, right? It's not 15-minute fight. An aggro can carry it, but also you need your team to do the mechanics and break the shields at the right time, avoid the pools, things like that, sort of similar to Damien. So it's kind of in the middle, and I think that's perfectly where it should be. Um, just because clearly it's an exclusive boss to mobile, and they want more people to be able to clear it, more accessibility, right? It feels hard, like Will still is to this day for a lot of classes. Like it's uh, for a lot of teams, it just wouldn't be as you know, it just wouldn't be fun. Like more exposure to it, more people clearing gets people excited, right? It brings something new to a huge player base, normal especially, hard even more so. So then I got obviously Damien and Lucid. So that's where I got it. Not the most challenging boss, right? We've cleared it. I've already cleared it twice. So, but I really like that more people are able to defeat it. More people are actually attempting it with such a wide range of gear, with such different team compositions, with kind of different strategies as well. Still learning, still trying to improve it, but it's great to see really when teams have it on lock, and it really shows even if they're lacking DPS, they can make up for it in mechanics and understanding the boss and timing your shield breaks at the right time. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is potentials and bonus potentials, and where HP percent falls, and which pieces of armor I recommend you should or can reroll or have at HP percent as your potential and bonus potentials, right? So I'm going to show you both kind of cases. Right? I'm going to show you my Demon Slayer, which I feel is a little bit more realistic. It's a little bit more achievable and kind of that mix in between. And then my Paladin, which is probably more like the end-to-end game, like min-maxing if you want to get into that, right? So I just want to give you both perspectives because I think it does matter depending on your budget, right? Your realistic expectations. And I don't want to just show you my Paladin and just be like, this is what you got to do, because that just does not make sense. So first off, what is a good enough HP to be at, right? And I think that, so like if you have decent hyper body here, which is 10%, right? And that's going to be huge as you get more HP. So my Demon Slayer is at 244 with decent hyper body, and I survived just fine, right? I have a lot of different ways. I'm a warrior, right? So keep that in mind. Warriors have a lot of different ways to get HP, but this HP actually helps a lot. But at least get this one for guild skills. This is a ton, 3,000. It adds up, right? HP from set bonuses adds up. These are all raw HP, right? But you need to have a kind of a base number of HP in order to have that percent HP be more beneficial, impactful, right? So accessories are a great way to get more base EXP as well. Leveling up, star forcing your accessories as well is here. And then the outfit is the outfit, the hat, the gloves, the shoes are the HP ones that give the HP. Outfit is the most important, right? So keep that in mind. But for bonus potentials, so here's what I have. A little bit of mixed bag. So hat, physical attack. So what I recommend is usually if you're rolling for potentials and you come across something that's like this, 2 lines of very good physical attack, I would keep it, right? I wouldn't roll off of this hoping for HP percent being the better option, because you'll see there are other pieces of armor that can get HP percent, right? You still need the stats, especially if you're kind of in this kind of same situation as my Demon Slayer. 40s, ignoring me defense is fine, 40s, max damage cap, kind of in that range, right? This is just an alt for me. So 2 lines, physical attack, taking it, right? That's 12%. That's huge. 120%. So that's a lot. Gloves has to be physical damage, magic damage, or crit damage. Those have to be the top 2 priorities. HP percent here, if it's the 3rd line, I would keep it. But 2 lines, I would say you have to have physical damage or magic damage, because physical damage and magic damage is a huge stat. It's basically final damage. Okay, so gloves, HP percent, I wouldn't recommend it. Even if you had 3 lines of HP percent, like say you had 10% HP percent, I would reroll that. I just would, because like you can hear, I did outfit here. I made the decision I needed more HP, right? And I chose to reroll this one versus the gloves, right? So it's 5%. Huge, right? I could have got physical attack, but I thought my physical attack was in a decent spot because I have a lot of symbols, right? So I got 10,000 from symbols. So remember, take this with a grain of salt. My Demon Slayer has a lot of physical attack from that. So I chose 80% here. I stuck with it. Shoulders, physical damage, same as gloves. You need that. Shoes, HP percent. Now if I got physical attack here, if I got speed here, I may dabble. But HP percent, in my opinion, since I have a decent enough physical attack, that I decided to do HP percent here. Now if you got 2 lines of physical attack of over 1,000, that's keepable, right? Physical attack here. Belt is a good one to HP percent, in my opinion, because there's not a lot of great options. I just so happen to get 3 physical attack lines here, so I kept that, obviously, right? It's hard to turn that down. Cape, another great one for HP percent. I'm a big fan of speed here, so I actually kept this for now, but this is definitely re-rollable into double HP percent lines if I felt the need to have it. Okay, if I was like, I don't know, maybe in the low 200s or something like that, maybe my arrow, cape is a great option. And then accessories, you can also roll for HP percent. I don't think I do have though, but you can get HP percent here on these potentials. So just keep that in mind. You want physical damage here, earrings, you want physical damage here, and you want boss attack here. Yeah, so accessories or HP percent here is great as well. So to recap, right, if you want to reroll HP percent, the ones you do not want HP percent on is your gloves and your shoulders, your earrings, your down pendant. You do not want HP percent. You want physical damage or boss attack or a combination, right? Other than that, I think everything else is free game. I would say belt and cape, definitely top priority. Hat, you can do it. Shoes and outfit, physical attack is a great option. Raw physical attack. But of course, in this situation, I ended up getting 2 lines, 5% each, 5% plus, 5 and 6% HP percent. I stuck with it, right? So there's no, in this current level of gearing for my Demon Slayer, it's a mix and match, right? You take what you can get, right? There's a lot of pieces of armors that you have to legendary flame, get 3 lines for. So if you come across like a 2 physical attack here, don't don't think, oh, because I have HP percent here, that you have to have HP percent, right? Stats are stats. Remember that. You can get HP percent a lot of different ways. So that is my Demon Slayer. And now we'll get into the Paladin. Alright, so now we'll get into the Paladin. The Paladin gear. So this is kind of the end game, kind of min-max. I didn't choice cube any of this stuff, so it's basically 2, maybe 3 lines of good things, but again, just 2 lines, right? 10% physical attack, plenty. This is just full stats. 3 good lines here: physical damage, crit damage, nothing crazy. Unique pot, crit damage, physical damage, right? So, and I think bonus potentials, now that we kind of look at it, it may be a good option for HP. Obviously, not for these armors. You still want physical damage, but like for this, it wouldn't be such a bad thing once you have this base and you end up getting a bonus potential and you get like 2 HP lines. Easy, keep, right? Then you don't even have to re-roll this. So that's kind of like, you don't necessarily have to re-roll these because you're going to have bonus potentials and you can get the same stats 2 for 1, right? Just keep that in mind. So I went physical attack here. I got HP% as a second. So this is ideal. Kind of best of both worlds. Shoes. Again, 2 physical attack, HP%, 3rd line. So we'll take that. Shoulders. Physical damage. Look at that. That's, again, you don't have to re-roll. You don't have to roll 3 perfect lines. Because as you get bonus potentials, look, I got 3 lines right there. Plenty good. Plenty good enough. Okay. Full physical attack here. HP. I went 2 lines HP, 1 physical attack here. We'll take it, right? And then let's see. I'll just go to physical damage, boss attack. So I went crit damage, physical attack here. None of these I went HP, huh? Crit damage, HP. What is this ring? Physical damage, yeah, boss attack. Physical attack as well. So, yeah, moral of the story is the end game, for me personally, because I have 326k HP, okay, with decent hyper body. So with monkey magic, I'll have even more. So remember, in a party setting, you're gonna get even more HP percent. And I think 326 is more than enough. Yes, to play a paladin, take it with a grain of salt. Yes, I'm a warrior, all these different sort of things. But the main point that I think people have to understand is that bosses have a combination of fixed damage and HP scaling skills. Right? Will, Archon, Gloom, even, I think. Maybe Gloom is all fixed, but for the most part, right, there's a combination. So regardless of having 400k or 500k, 50% is 50%, right? You're just gonna get hit harder. So I don't necessarily think, like, I think 250k to 300k is plenty enough. Anything more, like, in my opinion, like, is a bit overkill. Now, if you have HP percent, like, over time, as you get bonus potentials, you get more HP percent, perfectly fine, right? But you don't have to go, like, I went full stats. Just anticipating that as cap goes up, it's going to be harder to cap those lines. So, yeah, stats are always going to be beneficial. Physical attack, percent stats, they're all going to be beneficial. It's all going to be impactful. HP, in my opinion, secondary after a certain point. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this, though. But I get so many HP percent questions, and I'm just like, you have to have a balance, right? Stats are still stats. If you guys made it all the way to the end of the episode, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do all the things. Click the notification bell. And don't forget, streaming is going to be at least Thursday, Monday, most of the weeks. Wednesdays on patch notes, I'll be live as well. And don't forget to join the Discord. It is free for everyone. You'll get the live notifications, the that when the stream goes live, when content is posted, everything, and you guys can reach out to me in DMs and things, and just talk to the community as well. It's a great, a lot of people, great people in there having great conversations. So definitely appreciate you guys. Join the Discord, like, subscribe. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.